Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're here for the 21st webinar already of the ECOSYSTEX Insights Series. It's a sunny day in Brussels, so very happy that you're all joining us from wherever you are on your laptops. While we wait for some people to arrive, let me briefly remind you of the usual webinar procedures. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared on public channels afterwards. You have the possibility to ask questions to our speakers. Please just type them in the chat, mentioning who they are for. And should we have time to address questions in person, you're also welcome to raise your hand, and then we give you the rights to speak, and if you want also to show your camera. So that's really business as usual. In case you are joining us for the first time, very briefly, who is this organization organizing these webinars? Well, my name is Tilla Cross. I'm Sustainability Programs Manager at Textile ETP, the European Technology Platform. We're a Brussels-based non-profit organization, and our objective is to ensure long-term competitiveness of the EU textile and clothing industry through collaborative and market-oriented research and innovation. So as a network organization, we of course have many members from all across Europe, all working on textile research and innovation. And what we do with our members are these three service pillars that we have. So of course, we organize different networking opportunities in person and online. We have different learning formats, 3 different thematic innovation hubs on smart and high performance textiles, circular and bio-based textiles, and digitalization. We also occasionally work as a think tank and of course facilitate this ECOSYSTEX community. And our third pillar is supporting our members to access EU funding by, bringing them together to form consortia and then apply to EU calls. So that's a broad overview of what ETP is doing. Now a few words about what ECOSYSTEX is. I suppose many of you are already familiar with ECOSYSTEX is because you're either in one of the member projects, but we also every time have new people that are listening to these webinars for the first time. So it's always good to briefly remind everyone what it is that we do in this community, because that's what ECOSYSTEX is. It's essentially a community of EU-funded textile circularity and textile sustainability projects, both from the research and innovation side, but also from the skills and education side. And the goal why we founded this community now, over 3 years ago, was to create a permanent expert community and a central knowledge hub for practical application of EU-funded science, technology, and skills development for textile sustainability and innovation. In the past 3 years, the community has been growing really every month. So by now we have 96 member projects. Out of those, over 500 experts engage with the ECOSYSTEX activities. What is it that we offer them or that we do with them? Well, ECOSYSTEX is meant to be a platform to foster inter-project collaboration. So the experts working on these projects can come together in 8 different working groups to exchange their knowledge, discuss, share best practices, etc. We also occasionally engage with EU policymakers because, of course, there's a lot of scientific expertise in this community, and their knowledge is very valuable also for the policymakers. So occasionally we reach out to them and then forward it to the policymakers as well. And last but not least, the third area in which we're very active are joint dissemination activities like this webinar, because we also want to ensure, of course, that an interested outside public knows what's happening inside these EU-funded research projects. We organize this webinar series, but also an annual conference that I'll say a few more words about at the end of this webinar. But now it's time to start looking forward to the 4 presentations that we have prepared for you today. Here on this slide, you can see all the different member projects that this community exists of. And today we will hear from these 4 projects, the Fabrics projects, the SORTEX project, circularity, and CISOTAC. So without much further ado, this is the agenda of today. First we hear from the Fabrics project that will present their final results, followed by the SORTEX project. Then we have time for a Q&A, so don't hesitate to ask your questions to the speakers in the chat. And then we do the same in the second half again with the circularity project, followed by CISOTAC Q&A. And at the end, I'll share some upcoming events and wrap up the webinar. So with that being said, it's my pleasure to welcome the 2 speakers from the Fabrics project on stage, Marion Real and Young Kim, who's presenting from New York today. So we're very happy that she could make it. Looking forward to your presentation. Please share your slides and take the floor.
Hi, everyone. Can you listen to me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So I'm Marion Real, and I'm super happy to present the Fabrics project and some work we are doing with all the partners. I'm currently working in SEDEX TCPL. And I have been involved in many different projects regarding the role a bit of circular textile at local scale, involved in Textile Lab, also do some work with the Textile Lab Lyon, Olfe, and Fab Lab Barcelona. So today we will not talk about all the results of Fabrics, but we are here with Young Kim that you might present yourself just after the introduction. To really reflect on the role of facilitators. What is about facilitating when we talk about sustainable regenerative textile and clothing ecosystem, when we impulse this transition. So if you go on next slide, the idea today is to talk on different projects. We will zoom on what we call regenerative value chain at local scale. Then we introduce the Fabrics approach, and we deep dive on the role of facilitator, first at theoretical grounding level, and then we can zoom on what we learn from Fabrics facilitator and supporting them in both Rotterdam and Athens. Some feedback, and if we have time, we do a small demonstration of Fabrics platform that can really be seen as a tool for supporting the facilitator in this community management at local scale. So if you go next slide, just as a researcher, as citizen, as textile lab, as company, we are surrounded by different movements, network, group of work like ECOSYSTEX. A lot of people are now involved in the change toward regenerative and sustainable transitions. When we look at this policy and research context that we know well in ECOSYSTEX community, there is all the Green Deal, the strategy for sustainable and circular textile. We talk a lot about how to implement the eco-design and digital passports. And more recently, there is this new policy and action regarding the new European BOHOS that zoom much more at the neighborhood and city level to understand how we can sustain beautiful, sustainable, and together different practice. And also, I think it's important to say that beyond the partners that are involved in Fabrics, we are all influenced by these other movements that are more sometimes called activists or more grounded. A lot of things happen with fashion revolution. A lot of change happened with fiber shed. Some of us has been also influenced by the movement of Fab Labs, the work that is being done in Fabric Academy and on the Textile Lab community. And in the project of Fabrics, there is also this big influence on how we talk about city of making. And this is why I use this diagram from Fab City movement that question a lot what is the scale of production we are at. And in textile, we talk about all these different scale, from the global supply chain to much more locally situated chain of value. So here the idea is to say that in cities, in neighborhoods, a lot of fabrication can happen, a lot of circular making practice can happen, and how we can sustain these ecosystems. Next slide will show a bit more when we talk about textile and circularity in city, what we talk really about. It's a lot of different practices. It's people that repair, people that upcycle, people that recycle. It's also different type of stakeholder, from people that will do fixing at home or want a service for repair, to artisan craft people that do some creation around the textile. And it also, in some case, welcome a lot of big stakeholder. There is a lot of, for instance, in the case of Rotterdam, there is this big sorting center that are the middle of the cities and also part of this. So when we think this loops of circular textile in cities, it's interesting to look also what are the space and what are the networks and how we can facilitate that. And I let the word to Yang to present that and all the rest of the presentation.
Yes, thank you, Marion. So my name is Young. I'm postdoc researcher at Erasmus University. I'm working in fabrics. So as Marion set for us the context for envisioning such locally regenerative value chains and making circular textiles in cities, I'd like to go over the fabrics approach to getting closer to that vision, which is really to interconnect spaces and network aspects of the textile and clothing industry. And in doing so, in fabrics, we bring together discourses on urban planning, culture, creative industries, what it means to have productive cities, what is the role of production in cities, more specifically, and what is circular ecosystems that can really support localized resource flows and regenerative pathways in cities. So this diagram that you see is one of the main diagrams of fabrics that really tries to illustrate such approach, where on the left side, you see these disconnected actors, regardless of their spatial positioning. Really, it's portrayed in a way that there is a suboptimal reality for achieving circular flows. And through fabrics, what we would want to facilitate is to move towards the more right side of the diagram, where bridging the fragmented actor networks would really push towards a co-created optimal scenario, providing further synergy on the spatial positionings of the various actors. So the spatial locations of businesses across the textile and clothing value chains has been mapped through the fabrics research work. So this is a snapshot of part of that work, which might be a bit small to see on the screen. But the key takeaway really is that we were able to gather micro level, so business level data to really pin down and visualize the locations of businesses across the textile and clothing value chains in both Athens and Rotterdam, which are the two main case cities for fabrics. For Rotterdam, the main data source was from the Dutch Chambers of Commerce datasets, also known as the LISA data. And for Athens, it was from publicly accessible nationwide business registry data. But in addition to mapping and visualizing the spatial locations of businesses, by actually talking and interviewing the businesses, especially those that are practicing circular activities such as upcycling, recycling, and reuse, we were really able to confirm that regardless of some emerging spatial clusters or existence of proximity, the networks are indeed fragmented. And this really inhibits opportunities for collaborations and reaching that interconnected scenario that we saw in the previous diagram. So in Athens, for instance, we see very lively and active craft sector, but one that is also dispersed, very micro in size, and forming informal networks that don't often connect to more higher level municipality programs or institutionalized industry support. In Rotterdam, on the other hand, starting with active municipality initiatives and even some incubators that support sustainable businesses, there is a more institutionalized ecosystem emerging. But value chains are nonetheless still fragmented, with many entrepreneurs relying on their own personal self-built networks and continuously having challenges with high cost that comes from the lack of production infrastructures and accessing relevant skill sets. So the businesses in both Athens and Rotterdam point to challenges in having a difficulty accessing affordable workspaces that are close to their consumer base, as well as difficulty in finding new partners or collaboration opportunities that could really enable them to keep their costs down and access new resources and expertise. So in addition to understanding the businesses that compose the value chains, Fabrics also emphasizes the need for facilitating interactions and interconnections among these businesses and organizations in order to overcome the challenges that they face in the ecosystem. So in other words, circular communities or ecosystems need proactive coordination in enhancing both spatial and network proximity, with the vital role that facilitators play in weaving these connections. And Fabric sees that the greatest potential lies in empowering these facilitators to activate both existing as well as new communities. So this diagram on the right side shows some groupings of various actors, which we group as value chain actors, facilitators, and knowledge or policy actors. But our research also shows that the value chain actors and knowledge or policy actors also take on facilitators' role. And so this can really be understood as circles with fluid boundaries. And these actors can really wear many different hats when they're practicing circularity. And the role of facilitator is the discussion on the role of facilitator is not new in academic literature, especially from innovation and socio-technical sustainability transition literature. Facilitators are understood as intermediaries, with their defining feature being their in-betweenness, so the role of bridging gaps between actors. Literature also notes that intermediaries take diverse organizational forms, but in common, they perform relational work around transferring resources, knowledge, matchmaking, and coordinating interaction. So building on such theoretical discussion, facilitators can be theorized as intermediaries that work in between actors, networks, and institutions to coordinate collaboration, enable learning, and support system-level sustainability transitions. But on a deeper level, Fabrics expands on such definition and really further highlights three additional roles that are particularly important for achieving regenerative circular value chains in the textile and clothing industry at the local context. So for Fabrics, facilitators are also about having awareness of the value chains and the resource loops that they can identify and foster local opportunities. Facilitators play a key role in forming an actual physical community of like-minded people and their businesses, and facilitation highly depends on people and the local context. And these practices are taking place underground. And the first open call for Fabrics was to specifically work with these actors that play such facilitating role. And so through that open call, we selected 2 facilitators from each city. So from Rotterdam, 2 from Rotterdam and 2 from Athens. And each organization brought unique capabilities and their networks that when combined really have a huge synergy to shape a pathway to ground local circular ecosystems. So just to introduce our facilitators, so in the case of Rotterdam, we have TECO and Remake Society. So TECO is an acceleration and consulting agency that supports sustainable startups and material innovators, and really helping entrepreneurs to move from pilot phase to achieving more industrial production scale of activities. Remake Society is a social enterprise and circular textile atelier that focuses on upcycling and vocational training for people with distance to labor market. Both TECO and Remake Society collaborates with institutions such as universities, research institutes, and municipality, so really widening the scale of their facilitation activities and networks. In Athens, we have 10 Million Hands and the Institute of Commerce and Services. So 10 Million Hands, first of all, is a collaborative project that mobilizes artisans and micro producers for material exchange experiments and capacity building. So really focusing on craft sector activities that are very prevalent in Athens. The Institute of Commerce and Services is a representing body of commerce sector nationwide in Greece, and it focuses on knowledge aggregation and translation to really support municipal policy proposals and SME support programs. And in addition to the Fabrics facilitators, there are many inspiring examples of facilitators that, of course, we won't have time to cover each in detail, but they really play diverse roles, they exhibit diverse skills, and are in a variety of organizational forms. And we also see that in the textile and clothing sectors, many designers and startups are really transitioning from business-oriented activities to performing more facilitating activities. And so facilitators and their roles need to be understood really as a process and an evolving process of how this role really changes over time. So we also have some key learnings from the selected facilitators that I mentioned before in Fabrics, and what their experience is like in trying to really activate local value chain activities. And the learnings are the following. So innovation really thrives where materials can be touched and tested physically. So connection to physical infrastructure is really key. High leverage events help mobilization, but require coordination, early coordination with partners and clear role division, and especially so when facilitators themselves also face constraints in their time, resources, and staffing capacity. Project needs and activities needs to be aligned with local community challenges to avoid risk of trust issues and disengagement. And facilitators with their deep local connections and knowledge can really enhance this synchronization. Ecosystem activation also requires visible coordination and long-term commitment. And in such regenerative pathways, everyone can be facilitating changes and activating networks. So again, that importance of really the evolving nature and process approach to understanding the activities and roles of facilitators.
Yeah, and maybe just 2 slides to conclude a bit. In Fabrics, what we are learning about facilitating, we also testimony that there is a need also to be supported, and that maybe some tool can help to do this facilitation. So there is the Fabrics platform that is being developed now for a year. You have the QR code here, and we will put the link on the chat. It's possible to already test the platform. The idea of this platform is really to help at different level, both the organization as SME initiative that do the circular transformation and facilitator, to have a tool to interact, to do community management, to also have some feature of interactive map where you can see the different community, the different stakeholder. So it's a really interesting tool to discover, and we look forward to also do an official launching of the platform in the next weeks, month, where we will have more time to really show the stakeholder. I think a lot of people in ECOSYSTEX could be interested in using that. because it could be used at local scale, but also as a tool to just do networking and help to connect, to launch some challenge, or to have some events, to have a marketplace, and to really manage the community. And last slide to conclude is a bit for the news of fabrics. So what's coming next? After the call with the facilitator, we have been selected 20 SMEs that will also test the platform and do local production, circular production, also in collaboration. We hope to launch this platform. There is also inside the platform like what we call an impact compass to really support the SMEs toward circularity. Next, also, we are designing a learning hub. So here the idea is really to have some guide for facilitator and SMEs about regenerative transformation at local scale, and 2 moments where we hope we can discuss that more directly with you. We will be present at the ECOSYSTEX conference in Antwerp, and we are organizing our final conference. It's quite approaching, is in October the 7th in Rotterdam. So please keep that in mind if you want to join us. We will have more information coming soon. Thanks a lot for the opportunity to share this, and happy to have your question after the presentation.
Thank you very much, the two of you, for sharing your fabrics presentation. Very insightful. And as you mentioned, there's time for questions after the next presentation. So I would now like to welcome Brigitte He Olesen from the municipality Herning in Denmark to share the SORTEX project presentation.
Thank you very much. I will just share my screen, see if it works, as well as during our little test this morning. Yeah, let me see. It should be, I should be sharing now, right?
Looks good.
Good, thank you very much. Right, thank you for having me, or having us, the SORTEX project. I myself represent the lead partner, a municipality in Denmark, the Herning municipality. The SORTEX project was granted funds, 3.3 million euros from Interreg, an Interreg program covering the northern bit of Denmark, south and southern Norway and Sweden, with co-financing from the partners. Now, our focus is textiles, sorting of textile waste, I have to stress. So we have 13 partners from Denmark and Sweden participating in the project, a good mix of municipalities, municipal waste companies, waste handling companies, business council, research and educational institution, innovation centers. So really actors representing the triple helix, you could say. But again, focusing on textile waste. The project has a very classical layout of projects with work packages. And since we're only halfway in the SORTEX project now at this moment, I have to stress that we cannot present a lot of nice results, but I can give you an overview of what the project is about, what we're looking into, and some insights that we've gained so far. The 3 main themes of the project is the collection of textile waste, it's the sorting or pre-sorting of textile waste, and it's developing business models and value change for the textile waste. It'll, as I said, we hope to continue building results for the coming months. We won't finalize the project until next year. And results will be here, well, September maybe. Hopefully we can come back with ECOSYSTEX and present results later on. But looking into the first of the 3 themes, collection of textile waste. The main target group of the project is the municipalities. As I guess everyone in this forum is aware of, municipalities tasked with collecting textile waste. We are aware of the whole discussion of the EPR, but we continue our project, continue testing, because we're quite sure that the results will be interesting no matter what comes in the future. Now, one of the things a project like this does, partnering across a border, looking to what other countries are doing, other municipalities, is bringing up discussions about, in this case, one stream, two stream collection of textile waste. There are no conclusions, and we cannot sort of say that one is better than the other, but we can only, we've sort of acknowledged that the Danish municipalities are looking to the Swedish, saying maybe one stream collection is more interesting than what we do in Denmark, which is two stream, and vice versa. So, well, the grass is sometimes greener on the other side, but maybe not, but we'll see. Now, the collection tests that we're doing 12 different tests in Denmark and in Sweden in total. The tests are different from each other in the way that some are indoor, some are outdoor collection, some are collection by demand, some are citizens themselves handling in textile waste. Others are testing container types. And again, testing is continuing. The volumes will be small, rather small, but we do believe that we'll have some interesting results at the end of the testing period. I would like to share with you two of the tests, collection tests, that are a bit different from trying out different containers, indoor, outdoor. And the one shared on the screen here is one of our partners, a private company called Cycloth. They have developed a smart box, bags especially designed for the collection, an app designed for the collection, where citizens photograph the garments that they want to hand in. Using the app, they use the bag that it's provided and use the smart box that registers the delivery. And then we will, in the work packages, looking into the sorting aspects, be looking at what comes in this way. Will it be different from garments, textile waste collected in other ways? But it's using the technology to assist us and gaining a lot of data this way. Right. Another one of the collection tests that are a bit different is working together with the Postal Service. This is a test carried out in a municipality in Sweden, using the existing postal infrastructure, reducing costs and CO2 footprint as they are driving around on their routes, doing what the Postal Service, but then also now picking up textile waste. It works again using an app, booking the pickup of your textile waste. Information and bags are of course provided to the citizens in the municipality. And again, using an app is a way of collecting data to see what this test will tell us. So there are two quite different tests of collection. Now, the second theme of the project is sorting. Sorting in general, when it comes to textile waste, plays a crucial role in enabling circularity. Decisions are being made, whereas value decisions are being made concerning every garment. And most garments, or most textile waste coming in at the moment, is sorted by hand. So it is a crucial action that's carried out there. And the sorting makes the right material, the right quality, at the right time, maybe at the right volume, available for recyclers, businesses, designers, customers in general. So it is quite essential what goes on in that process. If the right decisions are made, we're preserving the garments as far up in the hierarchy of the waste hierarchy as possible. But if wrong decisions are made, we downgrade the garments into recycling maybe too soon. So looking into the challenges of of the sorting. There are different issues that we try to tackle, or at least do some research on in the project. Again, I mentioned the waste hierarchy. The textile waste does have different conditions when they're handed in. Materials are complex, hard bits on them, zippers and such. The products vary a lot, and the flows are mixed. So a lot of challenges for the sorting part of the project. And it's quite interesting to see what comes out of this, I think. We're working with one of the largest sorters in Denmark, and they have an abundance of data that they're happy to share with us, and which will be quite exciting to see at the end of the project. Also involved in the sorting package of the project, we look into using AI and sensors. They are key solutions to handling large volumes of textile waste. So hopefully we can recommend different ways of using these technologies by the end of the project. And of course, they add to the faster handling and quicker and hopefully more qualified decisions concerning the textile sorting. Now, as I said in the beginning, we do not have results as such, but I would like just to share with you, nevertheless, a little bit from the project. We had a conference in Gothenburg in March where some of these slides also were presented. One of our partners in the project, a Swedish partner called Bergen Innovation, they also work in the CISOTAC project that we will be hearing from later during this morning's webinar. And they recommended that we look into and use the CISOTAC way of grading the condition levels of the textiles, which we are doing. And that gives us sort of a uniform way of establishing or looking at the fabrics that's being sorted, at least in the project. To me, it's also an example of the good things that happen when projects share knowledge. And in this sense, we're happy to use the information from CISOTAC. Again, very preliminary results looking at 4 Swedish municipalities. This graphic just shows that we can identify the different qualities of the fabrics that have come in from the municipalities across the different tests, I have to stress, and what they consist of. But we also have the possibility with the data coming in to looking into each municipality and into each of the 12 tests to compare the differences. But again, stay tuned for that later on in the project. Just curiosity, people do put stuff that is not textile in the bags. This is what comes in, unfortunately, which has to be taken out. Now, moving on to the last and the third theme of the SORTEX project, where we look into business models using the textile waste, turning, hopefully, the waste into business. We have, I've taken here 4 examples of business cases with me. We have already identified, I think at least, is it 8 or 10, hoping for more. When we look into identifying business models for the use of textile waste, we're also focusing on the waste hierarchy to see where in the waste hierarchy are we with the different business models. Now, one that has presented itself is using textile waste for 3D printing, printing furniture or other items that can be sort of where it can be used. The textile waste is mixed with other materials, but at least there is an opportunity to 3D print with textile waste, which is quite interesting. It's also a way of downcycling. So again, we have to keep that in mind, but maybe that is one opportunity to be looked into. We have another one here, padding for jackets, an example where textile waste can be turned into insulation of jackets. Again, we recycle the material if nothing else is possible to do with it. A third one is redesign, selling the items that have come in for schools for their sewing and design classes. There was quite an interest for that during our conference. Again, looking at the volumes that can be used for this purpose, they might not be tremendous, but at least it's a way of using some parts of the textile waste. Danish schools are already working on this during their classes. And the last one is an example that is not new. I guess that a lot of people know that commission sales using physical stores, but we do think that it could be developed into also online sales portals and maybe at the same time. But work needs to be done to improve those models because it is already in existence, as you may know. Now, so these were just 4 examples. We're working on more. What I'd like to show to you is my last slides, I guess it is the structure of the SOTEX project. I know it's in Danish, so you have to excuse me for that, but it's just the graphic there that we do have the 3 themes in the project of collecting, of sorting, and developing business models. And then we hope to, during the last 12 months of the project, to build value chains. And that's why it was quite interesting for me to hear from the fabrics projects as well, to build value chains, looking into the best cases from collection, best cases from sorting, and best cases or most interesting business models, and see how they fit together when tested in unison. If possible, to test. It's quite schematic, I know, but maybe something interesting will come out of this. We do hope so. So these were just a few words from the SOTEX project. You can follow us on our website. I hope you'll be following us for the next 18 months. We'll be having a conference in Denmark next spring. Yeah, stay tuned, and we hope to share more later on. I guess that was it from me, and I'll stop sharing my presentation.
Thank you very much, Brigitte, for sharing your mid-project results, and we'll make sure to get you back for a later webinar when you have more final results to share, of course. So now it's time for the Q&A. So Brigitte, please stay with us, and Marion and Yang, you can come back. Let's have a quick look in the chat. So let me see. Let's start with a question for the fabrics project. Maybe the one from Joan. What will be the most important role of local production in the globalized textile industry, driven by a low price? ? Who of you would like to take that one?
Yeah, I can address it. Maybe Marion, you can also help me with that. But yeah, so yeah, fabrics really is focused on facilitating having more support for local production capacities, which as we know is being really outsourced globally, especially in the fashion, clothing, and textile industry. Local production really facilitates this localized scale of resource flows, which of course has less environmental footprints from minimized logistics and really enabling this local distance of material movements and supply chain activities. So of course there are these environmental benefits, but I think even beyond that, when we talk to the local textile communities, entrepreneurs, and SMEs who are especially working close with more circular activities in the textile and clothing industry, they really value this close interaction with supply chain actors, especially with production and manufacturing actors, because that really enables more trust-based relationships. There can be more easier coordination for innovation, for experimentation. And so this closeness, proximity to the actual physical material producers and infrastructure really has values in really activating the further innovation and entrepreneurship in especially in circular textiles and clothing activities. And yeah, Marion, definitely feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I think you have said a lot. I think the low price of a course is not what will be easy with local production is a really critical issue. But of course, why we're doing it and why we support it is because we want also to have a craft making producer in cities and to give the chance of reactivating a bit this in city and to have local production. So it's not just a myth. We need to do that. And like this local nodes of fabrication in different area can really help if they are optimized. So it's the better fabrics of it, yeah.
Thank you very much for your answers. Let's take a question for the SORTEX project now. I'll just pick the first one from Stefan in the chat, who says, thanks for the frank insights to SORTEX. Why did you put the question reuse or recycle? We know reuse, supporting longer use, is most sustainable, and there will be a definite end of use. Then inevitably the question arises how to recover resources.
So yeah, as you say, the most, or as Stefan writes, the most sustainable is reusing, and that's why we're interested in studying what comes in through collection and what can be the way sorted, and then actually a definite end of use, and where we have to find out what to do with the material and how to recover that. So we think it's important to look into all three aspects to collecting and sorting. We can secure most textiles being reused, but at the end of the day there will be waste. But can we still use that in business models? Before the word pricing was made, and I think the whole market situation, the pricing of the fabrics is quite essential at the moment, both for the reuse businesses, but also even the ones building a business case on the waste that cannot, where the garments is beyond end of use as garments. So that's why we're testing all three aspects and trying to put them into value chains. Maybe a bit theoretically, but that's, we think we have to look into every aspect of it and not only the reuse options. Yeah.
Thank you, Brigitte. And we'll still have 2 more minutes before we go to the next presentation. So I'll see to ask a question to both projects still. There is another one for you, Brigitte. What is SORTEX's opinion about using the coming DPP as a marker for sorting? Have you looked into that?
Not much, because we're still curious about how it'll present itself when it's here. So we'll just it's a bit wait and see, really, to see what comes up. Once it's being established, how it'll be carried out in the different countries, but especially Sweden and Denmark. So no, we haven't looked into that specifically. It's not part of the scope of the project.
Okay, thank you. And I see there's also a message from Olivier working on the White Cycle project. So possibly it's interesting for you to connect with him to test and discuss what recycling options they've been using in the project, also an ECOSYSTEX member, of course, so it's always nice to see. And let's have a look at the questions for the Fabrics project before we move on. Well, there was a quite long one from Stefan. I think, Marion, you already answered it partially. Do you maybe want to expand a bit on that question? it's basically Stefan said, it appears that you gave quite comprehensive insights. How do you weigh the focus of this project for the mentioned sustainability aspects, prolonging use time of textiles, supporting individual upcycling ideas, supporting recycling to new textiles? In what proportion of the volume of end-of-life textiles in the regions do you estimate being able to incorporate? Do you still want to expand on your answer in the chat, or shall we move on?
Yeah, I mean, I think we are in the Fabrics project. We see a bit sustainability issue with different hats. There is in this impact compass, there is really specific category, and the one that are mentioned are really helping SMEs and initiative to think differently and to give some advice on those topics. But mainly what is written on the chat, I think what is important and what is the bet that we do in Fabrics is that we try to really understand better the stakeholder, connect them, and so they can exchange their reality and have a place where they can do together, expose their challenge, do some events, and hopefully by fostering more interaction, you can really solve this, or like be able to make your project last longer because maybe of some advice from the designer that created this kind of an interaction. On volume, as I say, I don't have any specific answer. I think it's really depending the context. I don't know in Rotterdam and Athens if we surely have the data somewhere in our resources, but I would not go here now in the description.
Okay, well, thank you to the three of you for answering the questions from people. And yes, it's time to move on to the next presentation. So thank you again. And now it's my pleasure to welcome Marta Casadeiros from Textiles to share what they've been working on in the circularity project and their final results, because the project is also coming to an end.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for having us. I'm going to share my screen and start the presentation. Okay. So, as Tila said, I'm Marta Casadeiros. I am from textiles.cat, which are partners of the project circularity, and today we are presenting this project, their objectives, and also, the results that we have achieved by now. We're starting presenting a little bit who are we, so the partners of the project, then the objectives, how have we achieved the results that we already have. We present a little bit the results, and then we will share also the next steps and things that we have seen during the project. Finishing with the conclusions. Okay, so the partnership is comprised by the companies and institutions that you can see in the screen, mainly in Spain, because the coordinators, Marina, are located in Spain. We are speaking about manufacturing in a sustainable way, personal protective equipment. So all the companies involved are part of the value chain of the process that Marina does, except as a cluster and Gaitad, who help with just a technological center and helps with LCA and these kind of activities that are also inside the project. And Marina Textile, as I said, they are the coordinators, and they are a company dedicated to the development of manufacture of technical fabrics, mainly flame retardant. They are located in the province of Barcelona, and the production it's there, and they manufacture the woven and knitted fabrics and also laminated fabrics. They have they manufacture these fabrics, and they need highly specialized. They are highly specialized technical fabrics, and they need certifications in order to sell these products in more than 50 countries. They are doing that high value products, and they say that, okay, it's not enough, we are doing that, but we want to be sustainable as well. And this is where this project started. They have different products, as you can see in the image. They are covering different risks. So also the certifications are a little bit different, and also, of course, the yarns that they use. Why this project started? Okay, it started because, as I said, we have this high value waste, but if we don't do nothing, it ends up incinerated or downcycled, as we all know. And this is a pity, because we cannot throw away this kind of material so easily. So Marina had this concern, and they were wondering if they could do something. When we started the project some years ago, and the first trials, even further circularity was more uncertain for this kind of materials, but we proved that it's possible. Also, it's not only real, but scalable. So the circularity project ambition is to uptake a circular economy approach to reduce the waste of technical textiles and upcycle them into high-grade personal protective equipment fabrics. Inside Marina, the idea is to use a minimum of 20% recycled pre- and post-consumer material in a minimum of the 80% of the textiles used for PPS manufactured in the fabric. Again, according to the product, this is an important objective for the company, and the project has helped a lot to achieve it. When we started the value chain was they manufacture in a linear model, and now what we try is to recover all the residues for all the processes, and then change this linear model to circular one, converting the residues into a resource. The complication lies especially on this part. Apart from the certifications that I mentioned, we have different ways. We want to recover as much as possible in order to achieve our objective, which means that we have raw waste in the spinning, weaving, quality control, till we reach the dyeing and finishing operations. So we have this raw waste, and then we recover dyed and finished waste. So with these chemicals. Here can be yarn and fabric, but here mostly fabrics. Quality control, garment manufacturing, and final disposition. But inside the dyed and finished waste, we have this pre-consumer waste. The raw waste is all pre-consumer, of course, but half of the dyed finished waste is as well. And then the final products are post-consumer. We have to treat that differently because it has been used. So again, we have these three classifications, let it say, but also we have 3 lines of products: Marco Plusmark, Margan, and Aramar. Different risks and different fibers. This is a little bit complicated to to work with all these streams, and it's not easy. But this is what Marina does, and we have this objective. So this is what we have been working on. How we do that? First, we do a preparation at the beginning, checking that everything is possible and very important, working on the traceability. Then we train all the staff involved in the project because they have to know what to do. Then we demonstrate the circularity. When we recover waste, what we do is to start this recycling process, making new materials and testing them. And at the end, monitor an impact assessment for replication. So after starting the project, some tests were done in order to check that the recycling and using these recycled materials for PPEs as well, it's possible. We had this yes. Okay, then we started the project. As I mentioned, the traceability is something very important, and it was treated in the beginning. We needed to label all the looms and all the sacks and everything that we had in the warehouse, and everything that we were working on during the process. This is something that it's implemented, and not only in Marina, but in the companies that are inside the project, because we have to know what is what in order to recycle it correctly. We have to separate the pre-consumer, the post-consumer, and raw, dyed, and so on. So we create this system, and then we can start recycling because we have the material. But first of all, we checked that, of course, the separation is a very important step. If it's not done correctly, the quality decreases significantly, and we cannot do a strict quality control because it will cost a lot of time. And what we do is to train the staff, because what we want is that they know what they are doing and they must do it correctly. So we have these guidelines. We train on-site the staff involved in the project, and we think that this is a good way also to explain people that circularity is important, and also how it's done. So we have this material and with that kind of training. With all of that, we have 6 tons already recovered from all value chain, pre and post-consumer materials. We have seen that dyed material could have limitations due to the color, and we also have seen that post-consumer is more complicated to recover, and the information on its use is limited. It's something that it's not widely implemented, and we have experiencing some difficulties on that. I will explain it when we arrive to that point in some minutes. Those are the results. Let's start for the things that we already have. You can see in the screen some of the prototypes developed. Those are yarns with recycled content developed from raw and dyed pre-consumer materials. We have this yarn, and you can see the different colors, which I think it's quite nice, because you see that this is recycled. Then more prototypes. Those are the fabrics developed from raw and dyed pre-consumer materials as well, different colors. And here you can see also the fabrics, not only the yarn. And then here you can see the post-consumer materials ready to mechanical recycling process. All the recycling that we do is mechanical. And you can see here that we have different colors. We can do different mixes, but depending on which kind of PPEs we need to manufacture, sometimes this can be a problem. Okay, a problem or not, just another complication, I could say. So we have these prototypes developed, which are garments with different compositions and from different lines. So we already manufacture that, which are tested with in real environments for persons that used the PPEs which were not recycled. Now they are using the recycled ones, and they are testing and telling us how they work after passing, of course, all the certifications. Regarding the post-consumer material disassembly, we have tested different methods of disassembly. The garments were successfully shredded and converted into new recycled fibers. But as I said, the post-consumer needs a special attention because it might affect by lowering the percentage of recycled material into the final yarn and fabric. Okay, I am speaking about the process that we have done inside Marina because it's like, well, now it's pilot scale, but all that we have done demonstrates that this process is possible to do, so it can be replicated in other companies, environments, etc. Collection methodology can be applied to other technical textile streams. Traceability system is also adaptable to different manufacturers. We have detected the points that are important, but then those are replicable. Mechanical recycling validated for mixed fibers. And we have created we expect to create a roadmap for circular PPE production. Those are the results that we have achieved by now in the project, and the next steps of the project are the LCA evaluation of the new recycled materials, which is still ongoing. The project will be escalated. We have demonstrated that the collection process is possible to do, and now what we have to do is to recover more, to involve more companies, and to escalate this project. And then one point that we found very interesting, it's well, we have to analyze legal constraints and uncertainties regarding the application of the waste framework directives and extended production responsibility schemes for textiles across all the European member states. This is something that has affected us during the project because all the companies in the consortium are not in Spain. They are located in different countries across Europe, and if we move these materials across Europe, which are considered waste, we have to take into account how we do that. But in general, the messages that we can give to the sector is that the results of the project demonstrate that circularity in technical textiles is possible. We are recycling technical textiles and obtaining technical textiles. We can do that. And the collaboration of the stakeholders is very important to collect good quality waste. That, as I said in the beginning, it's a very important point. And to finalize, the conclusions that we have achieved is that the circularity in technical textiles is already a reality through validated recycled prototypes. We have recovered 68 tons of residues thanks to the collaboration and the traceability. We can collect pre- and post-consumer materials and reintegrate them into PPEs. The quality and the stakeholders' engagement are critical issues that we have detected in these processes, and also the regulatory alignment will be the key to scale circularity across Europe. Of course, if the regulation is easy or friendly in order to do that kind of processes, everything will be easier. And at the end, what we pretend is to explain the project as a replicable model for sustainable PPE manufacturing. in order to have more sustainable PPEs manufactured in Europe. So that's it. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions later, we will be able to speak. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Marta, for sharing everything that you've been doing in the ECOSYSTEX project. And yeah, let's just take the time to move on to the last but not least presentation of today before we take the questions for then both of these projects. So now it's my pleasure to welcome both Galia Nassar and Lina Santos Chatham on stage, who are both working on the ECOSYSTEX project and will share the next presentation.
Thank you, Tella. So I'm Galia Nassar. I'm representing my team from Wageningen Social and Economic Research, where we were working on ECOSYSTEX project, specifically looking at consumer behavior. In this presentation, I'll present the understanding and influencing consumer behavior, specifically looking at the sustainable disposal of textiles. So just to set the scene quite briefly, so for a circular textile chain, we're no longer talking about singular and isolated actions. Instead, we're looking at a web of interconnected behaviors. So that involves multiple decisions and habits that shape the lifestyle, the life cycle of a garment. So this is where the consumer plays a crucial role throughout the entire system, not just at the end. So their behavior and choices, this influences every phase, including the buying, using, and disposing of textiles. And each of these choices reflects a different behavior, which is also shaped by different elements. So this is why understanding consumer behavior is critical to making circularity work, not just in theory, but also in practice. So what we did, so if we want to look and truly understand the influence of consumer behavior, we need to go deeper. And this is where the COM-B model comes in. We use this model to guide our research, as it gives us a simple yet quite powerful framework. So for any behavior to occur, there are 3 conditions that must be met, which are capability, opportunity, and motivation. And capability refers to the physical and psychological skills that a person has in order to perform a behavior. So for example, knowing how to repair a garment, for example. And the second one is opportunity. So opportunity is more about the physical environment as well as the social environment. And these both can either hinder or support behavior. So for example, are disposal services available and accessible to the consumer? And both of these influence motivation. And motivation is the internal drive. So basically our emotions and our rationale. So what makes somebody choose to buy secondhand or donate over selling an item, for example. So when all of these 3 are aligned, then we can expect meaningful shifts in consumer behavior. And our research, going into it quite briefly, so our work in ECOSYSTEX was divided into 2 phases. One is understanding behavior and the other is guiding behavior. Our research looked into 3 behaviors, namely sustainable acquisition, utilization, so using of clothes, how do you use them in terms of, for example, washing and drying, and disposal, specifically sustainable disposal practices such as donating, recycling, or reselling. So for today, I'm going to focus on the understanding behavior part and present our findings. Then Oxfam will cover the guiding behavior and go through one of the interventions that we did in ECOSYSTEX. So for the disposal, overall, we did 2 kind of methods throughout the project. One is we did a consumer survey, which was online. It was a representative sample of almost 1,000 participants from Belgium, which were balanced on different demographics. And we also hosted consumer focus group discussions, which were a total of 6 sessions held in Antwerp with 35 secondhand and non-secondhand consumers specifically Kringwinkel consumers, which is another partner also in the ECOSYSTEX project. And for those sessions, there were mostly women with an average age of 40, and then they were also higher educated. So I'm gonna focus on the disposal part for today, and if you're interested more into the acquisition and uses findings, I'll share the report that we have done. So for donation, for disposal, what we have seen is that intentions and behaviors are highest for donation. So we looked at two kinds of disposal practices. One is donation, which is giving away or taking them to a thrift store or putting them in a recycling container. And the other is selling. And what we saw is that participants have more positive intentions towards donating their clothes. And another thing that we have noticed in terms, in comparison with the other behaviors, buying and using, disposal was the most done throughout the majority of the sample, with more than half of it. And then we also looked into the different kind of motives that are related to each stage. And with specifically to disposal, we looked at, for example, reducing waste, solidarity, making others happy, or whether this is something that makes you feel good, for example, and earning money. And what we have seen is that throughout the sample, waste reduction and solidarity were the main disposal motives. However, this picture slightly changes when we divide the sample. So if we divide the sample that we have into different groups, so we divided them into three groups. One, those who have no intention of participating in this behavior in the upcoming future, and then those who have an intention to participate in this behavior, say in the next 6 months, and those who have been performing this for the past 6 months as well. And what we have seen is that those who have no intention, they have different motives. So for example, earning or saving money was higher than the sustainability and solidarity motives. And other insights that came out from the qualitative research is the aspect of knowledge. So knowledge is quite an influential motive as well for disposing, as well as the lack of knowledge. So the lack of knowledge in relation to, for example, to disposal, this can be different things. So one is locating disposal stations, where to bring the clothes, in what state they should be in, and what happens to the clothes. All of these are also influential drivers for consumers to participate in this behavior. So specifically having access to collection systems or services nearby, this is a great incentive for them. Another thing that came about was emotions. So people quite often relate to disposing clothes with feeling bad. And we have seen that this kind also can stem in different ways. So whether it's how long that this clothes pile up in the household, the amount of clothes that have been given away, or also where they end up. And so, for example, we had one participant that highlighted that the donation bags often can stand for weeks or even months somewhere in the corner of a room before they have actually reached their destination. And another finding is that disposal for consumers is perceived as a mentally and emotionally time-consuming process. So when we look at disposal, it's not just the act of giving away the clothes, but it's also what happens before getting rid of the clothes. So for that, a lot of consumers face procrastinations, guilt, and the emotional value that's tied to clothes often creates a barrier for them to let them go. So for example, as with parents, one parent said that I cannot imagine to throw away my child's first clothes. It's far too emotional for me. So those end up just being piled up at home. So what we see is that disposal is a combination of different behaviors, whether that includes a selection of what kind of clothes that you want to give, where do you want to give it, and how do you give it. So what we need to focus on is that support is needed throughout all these phases, not only towards the end. And our take-home message through this, it's in order to develop good and well-targeted interventions, is that we need to boost consumer motivations, their knowledge, and their skills, and also to create supportive environments around them. Another point to consider is the conscious and unconscious motivations as well, as we know that emotions run deeply and these influence our relationship with clothes. And the third point is to tailor the approach to different target groups. So also dividing the consumer groups, as I have explained a little bit before, is that those who have an intention and those who are performing have different motives as to why they would like to dispose. So targeting interventions with different drivers is quite beneficial to have successful interventions. And taking into account the multiple behaviors into considerations while tailoring such interventions is also very beneficial. So this is quickly the part that we have done on the research, and I will hand it over to Oxfam to speak about the donation intervention.
Thanks, Halia. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Taylor, for inviting me. I'm gonna share my screen. Hope everyone can see it. Yes, as Halia already anticipated, so I'll be covering more precisely work package 5.3 and one element of work package 3.1, which is the one that Halia just went through. So work package 5.3 discourses about raising awareness of customers about environmental impact of clothing industry and the benefits of reusing, repair, and extending the life cycle of clothing overall. Just before we dig into the 5.3, so as Halia mentioned, we did participate in work package 3.1 with the donation intervention. So this intervention was developed, of course, in partnership with Wageningen University in terms of conceptualizing the methodology. It was launched in February last year, and the name of the campaign was Do Good, Donate. So we did have an element of communication, of dissemination with that. So this campaign was a donation driver that happened across 15 stores across the Republic of Ireland. And then we have 9 stores actively participating in the intervention, and we had other 6 stores that were used as a control. So we used the test and control methodology to measure the impact. In order to assess the efficiency and the impact of this intervention, the donation levels, they were measured before, during, and after the intervention. So the campaign total, the intervention in total last 3 weeks. And the outcome that we had was the efficiency of this type of intervention is strictly linked to also the level of tailoring of the activity. So in this case, we used a unique approach, which was not exactly so successful in terms of results. So to explain a little bit more what happened during this intervention. So we had the visual in-store intervention, which is the one that you can see on the screen now. So we have these big decals on these selected shops. And we also had the online intervention, which was basically designed, the design was aligned to what you see on the screen, but also with further information about environmental impact of the textile industry. So basically, this was used for across all the shops, and not necessarily the result was the same because the demographics are different, the location of shops are different. So all of this impact also the donation levels and also the season of the year. So this intervention started in February. So we had a huge wardrobe, what we call wardrobe clear-out right before the end of the year. So we had more donations at the beginning of the year rather than in March, for example. So there's a lot of factors to be taken into consideration in terms of the intervention. So moving on to the actual 5.3, which is raising customer awareness. So before we starting actually develop the campaign, we decided to carry out a survey. So the questionnaire was basically identical to the one used by Wageningen University in the Flanders region. So we wanted to assess clothing consumption patterns, motivation barriers across the Republic of Ireland. So this survey took place in May last year. We had 1,000 respondents, and some of the key findings that were integrated to the campaign, and they were used as a points across the month of the campaign. So some of them covered the perception of repairing clothes or recycling clothes. So there's still a lot of barriers around it. Some obvious findings about female public being more respondent in terms of buying secondhand clothes rather than male. So this was also used as one point of our campaign. We try to focus also on this male audience that sometimes is overlooked when we're talking about fashion. And some of the priorities were quite contradicting in terms of what drives the consumption of secondhand. So some of them replied, most of them replied affordability and quality, which is quite conflicting considering that we have a fast fashion industry. They offer affordable garments but at lower quality. So there's still a gap between intention and performance. Another one was about the presence of celebrities supporting secondhand. So the general perception of the Irish public is the celebrities or famous people, they are not representative of this type of lifestyle of secondhand. And convenience was definitely indicated as a key driver for sustainable practices. So these are some of the findings, but we had way more, and these were used and integrated in the campaign. So I'm going to start with the campaign in Ireland. So just an overview for 5.3, we had 3 partners. So we had Oxfam Ireland as the task leader, we had Oxfam Belgium, and we had Decathlon Italy. Okay, so starting with the Oxfam Ireland, so we have secondhand September, which is our main dissemination campaign, and we used the tagline, fashion shouldn't cost the earth, for the campaign last year. This campaign was launched on social media and traditional channels, such as newspapers, magazines. We also had the presence of a brand campaign ambassador, Irish actress Aisling Bea, and the strategy for last year was to split the campaign into weekly themes. So each week we will cover more in depth a certain aspect of secondhand, given there is still a lot of unconscious bias and the stigma around secondhand as a fashion statement and fashion choice. So the week 1 was focused on donation. We also used this week to promote our Post Back initiative, which is our home collection service for donations. Week 2, we have repair and clothing care. So this week was more focused on extending, showing the benefits of extending the life cycle clothing, and also some ideas on how to take care of your clothes. We also launched a care hub, which was basically one page on our website with some practical hints on how to extend the life cycle, how to take good care, how to wash, some explanation about the labels of the clothes. Week 3 was to align the secondhand with styling and fashion statements. So again, bring this idea, this status of secondhand as a fashion choice. And week 4 was to promote climate justice and public engagement in the sustainability. So here we have some of the materials that we promoted. We have a lot of materials that you can have a look on our social media channels, LinkedIn and Instagram. Okay, going now to Oxfam, Belgium, which was also one of the partners, as I mentioned before. So they developed the concept around a campaign called Infinity Collection. So Infinity Collection was developed into phases. So phase 1 was aimed at donations. So this donation was also, this design of this idea was also aimed to promote the high quality donation of clothes. And phase 2 was held in September. They also have their secondhand September campaign. So they used the Infinity Collection to promote the secondhand September campaign. So all these donations, they were curated by Oxfam staff and stylists to create like basically a collection, a fashion collection. And they had a lot of material available, not only online, but in stores. So they did a lot of flyer activations. So you can see some tags in the materials as well. So it was really designed as to become a fashion collection. And this Infinity Collection is not only sporadic, it's not only periodic, but it's also becoming a permanent component on their dissemination efforts. So they already have established that this Infinity Collection will be around for the next years. And finally, we have Decathlon Italy. So Decathlon, they focus on video campaign, and their campaign was split into 2 years. So the first year was covering repair, and the second year was covering reuse. So they used the backpack as the main element of the campaign, showing how this emotional connection that we have sometimes with garments or with some elements that we use every day, and how this relationship, how this connection can be passed over and can be built again with a new owner. Here we have some of the rich results. So as you can see, the numbers were quite impressive. We did have a higher level of reach. We promoted different events as well. So we had repair workshops, we had appearance on live TV, for example, in the Irish media. So this guaranteed, for example, for Oxfam Ireland, 9.4 overall impressions. We participated in 14 live events. And in terms of media, so newspapers, TV, radio, we have 5.2 in terms of reach. The Infinity Collection plus secondhand September in Oxfam, Belgium, they had 3.9 impressions and 3.3 million views. Also very, very outstanding results in terms of reach. And Decathlon Italy, because they chose this approach of video campaign only, so their impressions were lower compared to the ones in Oxfam. Well, so some of the recommendations and next steps that in Oxfam Ireland we can see. So there's still a lot of investment needed in the second-hand section. It's still second-hand, as I mentioned before. There's a lot of bias and a stigma around it. So there are some business cases that we can review and incorporate as lesson learned, especially in terms of the interventions. So how to tailor these interventions to be more close to the reality of the locations of the shops and the demographics around it. Also, there's a lot of uncertainty about the value chain. So also the messaging on what happens to the clothes that are donated, how they're sorted, what happened to the ones that are suitable for being resold. So what happens to them? This is also a lot of uncertainty in the general public around it. And still a lot of survey needed around drivers and barriers to secondhand clothing. And also, as I mentioned, there's a lot of certainty about consumers not being able to understand exactly what is acceptable for in secondhand shops. So many people still don't know. There's still uncertain if some sort of garment that they have at home is still acceptable as a donation or not. So there's a lot of messaging that needs to be worked on around that. And investment in communications directed to behavioral change in textile consumption. So there's a lot of literature about secondhand and behavioral change in sustainability, but there's not much literature about communications and for change in textile consumption. So there's still a lot of room for improvement in this one. And these are my presentation.
Thank you, the two of you, for sharing your ECOSYSTEX insights. Very interesting also, because we also all are consumers, right? So it's also interesting to listen to this from that perspective as well. So now it's time for the second Q&A. So I welcome Marta back here with us. So yeah, everyone, please feel free to ask questions also to the ECOSYSTEX project representatives. In the meantime, I would like to address the two questions addressed to the ECOSYSTEX project in the chat. So the first one by Enrique was, I was wondering which circularity indicators are used in the LCA to assess circularity.
Okay, so this part is still ongoing and it's done by a partner of the project, that. So if this person wants information about that, maybe it's better to contact us directly so we can speak about that with a partner who's doing that.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, if you want to share your email address or something, maybe.
Yes.
That could be
Thank you.
Something to exchange. And then the second question to you by Stefan. You remark a need of good quality waste collection. Which characteristics do you assume to be fulfilled by quality?
Regarding the pre-consumer and post-consumer, but no, sorry. Regarding the pre-consumer, what we need is material that it's not mixed with anything else. That enough for us, it's good quality, because when we are collecting this kind of materials and we put, for example, a bin in the factory, sometimes some paper, some plastics can go inside the bin, and this is very important to something that we must avoid. And if we know what we have there, and we don't mix other materials and also other fabrics, if we know which fabric, which product line we are working in, for us, that's enough.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your answers. I see there are no questions at this point in time for the ECOSYSTEX project. Well, if you have some after the webinar, you can reach out to us, and then we're happy to put you in contact with the speakers as well. And of course, we'll share all the slides afterwards with you. So yeah, don't hesitate. So thank you to the three of you for your presentations and your time. I will now bring back my slides. So to give you a brief outlook on upcoming events before we close the webinar and you can continue your Friday. So yes, what's happening next? Well, the next ECOSYSTEX Insights Series webinar is already scheduled for the 21st of May, and it will focus on the skills and education projects within our community. So if you're interested in what they've been working on, do register for that one. The link will be shared sometime next week. Then there is one of our members, the Just Fashion Project, that is organizing a webinar on closing the loop with technology on the 27th of May, to which you can register. And another member project, the Re-Ups Project, is organizing an in-person event at Saint-Expel in Courtrai on thermomechanical recycling of polyester textiles and development of applications in the textile industry. You can also find all these events on the ECOSYSTEX website. My colleague dropped the link in the chat, so you can always keep an eye on what's happening there as well. And of course, I also invite you to save the date for the ECOSYSTEX conference that we're currently in the process of organizing. It will take place, the end of September, from the 22nd to the 24th of September in Antwerp. It will be the final event of the CISOTAG project. Also, the Fabrics project will organize a workshop there, as mentioned before, and 4 other member projects will be there as well. We will also visit one of the CISOTAG pilots located at the Kringwinkel in Antwerp, a semi-automated zipper repair station. So you have the possibility to sign up for that as well. And on the 3rd day, the 24th, we'll also organize exclusive visits to Saint-Expel in Ghent and Resortex in Brussels. The full agenda will be published in the upcoming weeks together with the registration link. So for now, just save the date. And it's always nice to meet in person after all these online gatherings throughout the year. And with that being said, I would like to thank all our speakers for their time today in preparing the presentations. I hope all of you found it interesting and you learned something. If you would like to, be put in touch with any of the speakers, don't hesitate to contact us through our form on the website. And also, of course, if you don't follow us on LinkedIn, follow the mailing list, all these things that you know how it works. Thanks again, and wishing you a lovely Friday afternoon. So.